Alright, hey guys, Jack here from Peach Guitars, and you may be thinking to yourself, oh dear, what have I just stumbled into? This is another Tube Screamer comparison, is it not? Yes, it is. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not, I'm going to take you through 6 amazing Tube Screamer variants today. The internet is currently awash with Tube Screamer discussions, which one's better than this and which one's better than that, but today isn't really about that. I just wanted to show you some of the different options that are available in the Tube Screamer Overdrive pedal camp, show you that they're not all alike, but they obviously have a very common thread that runs between them, and show you also that you can go anywhere from a rather inexpensive option all the way to a boutique expensive option with multiple different tone shaping capabilities, and find something that suits your rig and your playing style very, very suitably. I'm also going to stick to a very home basis kind of setup today of just using a Fender Custom Shop Strat into a rather clean Dr. Z Maz 38 amplifier. Before we get into the shootout today though, I just want to remind you to like this video if you enjoy it, comment down below with your thoughts and your personal favourite of these 6 pedals I'm going to show you, and make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel as well. Okay, so I want to start out with an original 80s Tube Screamer, which I'm lucky to be able to play courtesy of John. This is his own pedal that he's used a bunch of times. As you can tell, it's been stomped on a lot, and that's the virtue always of a good pedal if it's been used, I think. So the original Tube Screamer debuted in the early 80s. I'm sure a lot of people will know the history of the Tube Screamer. I'm not going to get into that today because it's been covered a huge number of times on the internet. It's very well documented, and I'm sure most people will know the history. But the original has a very unique quality, and it's something that boutique brands definitely try to recreate as best as they can with more modern components. Some do better jobs than others, but the original stands high above the rest in terms of the opinion of many players out there for whom the original just cannot be substituted. And I can kind of see why. The original has a huge dynamic range, which some of the other pedals do not have. And if you're going for that very classic fairly clean Strat sound and you just want to bolster it up with the mid-range character that a Tube Screamer has, it takes away just the right amount of low frequencies and rounds off just the right amount of high frequencies and boosts your mid-range in a very vocal kind of way. The original pedal does an absolutely fantastic job of that. So I'm using it today in a very low gain setting. These are John's settings that I've just lifted. I haven't touched the pedal at all. Level all the way up, drive pretty much all the way off on the tones about 10 o'clock, and that really just provides a nice lift for a Strat. It also works well with a humbucker equipped guitar, but for the context of the rig today, this is where I think the Tube Screamer really shines for most players, or most Strat players at least. So hopefully you'll get the very distinct character of a Tube Screamer if you've never heard one before from this exact pedal. Okay, so next along I want to talk about the most obvious choice if you're looking to recreate the Tube Screamer sound. Ibanez's own offering should be the first place that you look. This particular pedal is the rather fetching red sparkle finished 40th anniversary of the 808 Tube Screamer, and it shares a lot of similarities to the original in a lot of crucial ways. It gives you that same mid-range character and the same lobbing off of low and high frequencies in a very smooth musical way. However, I do think that the new version that I'm playing here has a little bit more gain, a little bit more compression. So if that's something that you're looking for, if you want a smoother character, I think the new pedal does a fantastic job of that. It doesn't necessarily have quite the same dynamic range of the original, but if you want something with a bit more of a modern twist and that sounds a little bit more characterful of what you hear most Tube Screamer players nowadays using, I think this is a great option. Still, you don't necessarily have to go boutique. Ibanez still have this voicing of particular overdrive pedal absolutely nailed. For the purpose of the demonstration though, I am using pretty much the exact same settings as I did on the vintage one, which is to say level all the way up, drive almost all the way off, and tone about 10 o'clock. Okay, so moving along to Maxon, which is a fairly new brand that we've just taken on, which I'm really pleased about, because I'm sure anyone who's aware of the history of the Tube Screamer will be well aware of the significance of Maxon pedals. These guys basically manufactured all of the original Ibanez Tube Screamers back in the early 80s. As I said, I'm not going to delve into the history because it is well documented, but I'm sure a lot of people will recognise the significance of this company. So the Maxon's own take on the OD808, which is their take on the 808 Tube Screamer, of course, I think this sounds very, very similar to the original one. Certainly if you set it in a similar way, it has that same openness and that dynamic kind of breadth to it, which some of the others do lack. That's either to your taste or it's not. However, I think they've expanded the versatility on this pedal, for example, giving it true bypass switching to modernise it. And a lot of players use this in a higher gain context as well, as a clean boost into the front of a high gain amp, for example, to really tighten things up. And the open voicing of this pedal really helps with that. So it's a nice alternative to the vintage. It also sits somewhere in between the vintage and the modern reissue. So it's kind of like the perfect hybrid. If you're looking for the sensibilities of both, check out the Maxon OD808. Okay, so JHS's offering is the Bonsai. This pedal received quite a lot of coverage when it came out and still continues to this day. mainly because it's such a versatile take on the classic Tube Screamer design. So you've got a bunch of different circuit modes in this pedal, which are all voiced after individual Tube Screamer variants throughout the course of the pedal's history. So it's not just modelling one type of Tube Screamer, it's really having a go at taking on a bunch of them, including JHS's own voicing, custom voicing up the top here. But today I'm just using the 808, so it compares most closely to the original and all the other pedals I'm showing you. The thing I like about the Bonsai the most is it's the leanest in the low end, so it actually tucks away quite a lot of low frequency. And if you're going for that Mayer style Tube Screamer sound, where he's famously used the TS10, there is a TS10 model on here as well, but the 808 setting sounds fairly similar in that it really tucks a lot of the low end away, makes a Strat sound very alive and zingy. It adds a lot of that nice upper mid-range harmonic content as well, but of course being a JHS pedal, it's manufactured to very, very high quality, the build quality is great, and you've got the added flexibility of all these other modes if the 808 mode isn't to your personal liking. Another thing that's worth pointing out with any Tube Screamer style pedal is that the amount of output that you give it is really important in terms of how it affects the amp tone. A lot of players like to use very low level and use higher drive settings. However, the Bonsai really benefits from having a lot of output available in the pedal, so you can really kick the front end of an amplifier if you want to do that, and it sounds nice and open and big. And that's kind of what I'm doing today. I'm utilising that to push the front end of the amp a little bit harder to get even more of a dynamic range and harmonic spread. Okay, so Ryra pedals have the 808, which is their Tube Screamer take. Obviously the name implies that it's definitely going after that particular circuit and variant of Tube Screamer. A couple of things I really like about this pedal, and I actually used this in quite a number of Peach Guitars videos a couple of months back, in live videos and listening videos. I really like the mid-range on this pedal. It's a lot clearer than a lot of the other pedals. It sounds a lot more open. Doesn't necessarily have that same dynamic squish that the Ibanez and the Maxon do. And that's good for some people, that's bad for other things, but I really like the way this pedal sounds, either as a cleaner boost, or as I do later on in the clip that you're going to hear, if you crank the drive up as a standalone kind of overdrive sound, which is something the Tube Screamer I think doesn't get quite enough credit for. Everyone knows it works really well as a boost, but you can actually get some really nice mid to high gain sounds just by using the pedal alone. Another thing that's really important about this is the top mounted jacks, which is either going to work for your pedal board setup or it's not, but it's really nice just to have the option of a pedal on the market that will give you that if that's what you need. Okay then, so lastly I want to talk about the Kingtone Soloist. I'm sure this is what a lot of people have been waiting to see. This is based off the string singer side of Jesse Davies' Dualist pedal, which is always a takeoff of a Tube Screamer style circuit. It's not a direct clone, it has a number of enhancements and some would say improvements, or at least options to give you flexibility in the tone over a regular Tube Screamer. But at its heart, it's based around the same kind of chipset that the original Tube Screamers were, and it's very much that kind of voicing of that mid-range, snarly kind of a thing. Jesse Davies is well known for being a Strat player, so this pedal is kind of voiced around a classic Strat into a Fender amp type thing, but because of the number of tonal options you've got, it works with any setup really, and it can be used up to 18 volts as well if you want increased headroom. You've also got a lot of tone shaping options, like I say, of the low frequencies with this fat control here, and you've got a 3-position high-end frequency response switch as well. You've got that extra output that I mentioned with the JHS pedal as well. That means you can really kick the front end of an amp with this if you want to. And it's also got the same practical or not practical, depending on your application, top-mounted jacks on here as well. So I really like that in a pedal to be able to use it on the pedal board. I think it's quite useful. The Soloist has that. And it's worth pointing out as well that you can get it in red or black, whatever you prefer. Alright guys, there we are. I hope you can take something from this video in terms of the fact that yes, a lot of Tube Screamer pedals do sound quite similar to one another, but if there's a little nuance that you're searching for, hopefully you'll find it in one of these pedals that I've shown you today. Whether you're a true stickler for the original tone and you will accept no substitute for the vintage Tube Screamer itself, or if you're willing to try out some more modern counterparts, maybe with a slight variant on the tone. It's just worth pointing out, as always, that there's several options on the market and several options that are available at peachguitars.com. So if you want to find out any more info about any of these pedals, or indeed to check out any of the other pedal offerings that we have in store, head over to the website by clicking the link in the description box below. As I said, in future videos I'm going to talk more about the Tube Screamer and how useful it can be in a number of different applications. But for today I hope I've provided a little bit of a guide as to what makes this pedal so legendary. So thanks very much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.